Hello and welcome back into Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name is Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. And we've got some tournaments galore today to go over. We've got some NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and the start of conference tournaments for college baseball. So, with that being said, we'll hop right into the NHL. I mean, with this being a North Carolina podcast, we'll hop into the Hurricanes game. Not a pretty game today. Not a pretty game to say the least. But before people get all gloom and doom, I think Aiden agrees with me. I think the game was a lot better than the score suggests. But you got anything you want to start off with?
I just want to say, that start at the beginning of the game with Carolina going down 2 goals, like within like the first, I think it was like 10 or 12 minutes. That was a little bit rough, not gonna lie. But with Sebastian Aho able to score in the closing seconds of the first period, I honestly like things were looking up for a little while for me. I was thinking like, you know what, that was a good kind of like tone changing goal right there. You know, momentum's probably going to be like shifting now. But then going into the second period, AJ Greer able to score within the first 3 minutes, putting the Panthers up 3-1. And then after that, things started to kind of really go downhill into the third period with like Sam Bennett scoring off of a power play and just kind of things evolving from there. Carolina was able to get Jackson Blake scoring in the final in the power play in the final minutes of the game, making it 5-2. But on paper, not the worst appearance by the Canes. I mean, able to get 33 shots on goal, um, winning 60% of faceoffs. I mean, on paper, like Carolina should have performed a lot better than they did. But I think like one thing that I was noting and what I was telling Gareth in the first period is just everybody looked a little flat in that first period. I mean, Florida was just kind of playing Carolina style hockey for a little while. And granted, there were some questionable calls, especially when it came to like the first power play goal. But I think in the end, you can only complain about those things so much. And granted, Florida had like what 22 penalty minutes or something like that. Like able to really capitalize on just the mistakes that Carolina was making, and Carolina just looked flat in that first uh, appearance, and I expect them to pick it up in game two.
Yeah, what you hit on is kind of the frustrating thing about playing a Florida team that I've seen other people play. You can play the game your way. You can have your ideal game. You can hit all of like a lot of teams like this is in all sports, but a lot of teams in hockey they have benchmarks where it's like we win X percent of games if we hit this amount of shots, this ratio of shots on goal to their shots on goal, this ratio of faceoffs, this ratio of hits, we win. But the kind of why a lot of people dislike Florida, I don't dislike the Florida Panthers, but what a lot of people find frustrating about them is you can do everything right, but with the way they play, they can still win. You can outshoot them, you can outhit them, you can dominate them on the faceoff. You can lead what they call scoring chances, which isn't just shots on goal. That is like what they call like dangerous chances, where like 9 times out of 10 it's a goal. You can lead those, and you can still lose. You can outshoot them by over 10 goals. Carolina usually when they hit 33 shots on goal wins a game. Usually when they lead faceoffs at least 60-40, they win the game. But like all Florida series, they have Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, am I going to sit here and say like he won that entire game for them? No, not necessarily. I think they probably still would have won, but I will say with any other goalie, I feel like that game would have been a lot closer. But what I will say is I think some of the keys that, and I know everyone's like, oh, it was an absolute ass beating. I don't think they actually watched because Carolina controlled, I'd say, just the game flow, the momentum. They controlled most of the second, third period. It was just they weren't able to get past Bobrovsky, and he was great. And Bobrovsky, as of late, has been good. And another big thing is that I noticed in this game was outside of those first two goals, those three final goals came off of three major mistakes, which unfortunately Florida was able to punish. And that's kind of back to the main thing that's frustrating about Florida is they're very clinical in front of the net. They don't need very many chances to score a lot of goals, which is very uncommon in hockey with how hard it is to score. Like they are very good in front of goal and they are able to pinpoint their way around a goalie. So you cannot give Florida an inch. But what I will say is the Hurricanes were missing Chetfield. He's one of our better defenders. And the Hurricanes were starting essentially a rookie on defense. I'm blanking on his name, but he has never appeared in the postseason. And this was like his first meaningful game today. And I'm not pinning it on him. Like, I'm not saying we lost because of him. We played who we had to and who we had available, but he did not look great. Let me double check. I don't need to check on his name because I'm not going to like call him out or anything, but like, you could tell there was just not a lot of chemistry there today, like that you hinted at that coming out flat. And I think having almost a week off didn't necessarily help. Like, it's nice for like to get your guys some rest, but at the end of the day, I feel like that we would have benefited from going to maybe a game 6 as to opposed to a game 5. But like I said, I think the Canes will bounce back with getting Chetfield back. And the Canes were playing the way they wanted to play outside of those two, like outside of those 3 mistakes. 33 shots on goal is good. The amount of scoring chances they had, I liked. They were creating chances that we'd normally score off of. It's just there weren't necessarily as many as I would have liked because we were missing passes. There was a lack of chemistry. They didn't look comfortable on the puck. Worse, Florida and Carolina are set up to beat each other. Like, that's how they play. And they do play very similar styles of hockey, which is funny because do you know where the Florida coach was before Florida? Carolina. Do you know the last Carolina coach to win the Stanley Cup? The Florida coach.
Yeah.
You know who Rod Brindamore was an assistant to where he learned this system? When this guy coached in Carolina. Yeah. So this is like, that's the, like, I don't understand the hate the Hurricanes get. Like, I think a lot of people just hate on it because it's a small market team. But the way both of these teams play, I can understand why people say it's frustrating to play against Carolina because we're literally playing against our own style, and it was frustrating.
Yeah.
It is very, like, now I will say there are differences which, you know, can make them look very different at times. Florida can play however they need to play. That's the difference. The way Florida wants to play is the way the Canes play. But Florida can win when they're not winning the shot volume. Florida can adjust their strategy based on the team. The Canes don't change their strategy. But the Florida's go-to strategy is the Canes strategy. And we saw that at times today. And boy, was it fucking frustrating to play against. Just aggressive. And the main similarities come on the defensive end, just incredibly aggressive, suffocating defense. So when teams say they're frustrated to play the Canes, I can at least somewhat understand because we saw that tonight. And like even Florida fans say at times that game looked frustrating for them when they were playing us. Yes, they were up, but when like eventually they got the goals they wanted. But when when Carolina made it 2-1, they're like, it's just frustrating because it's like they're like, we finally understand how it feels to play against us with how similar these styles are. But like you said, I think Carolina will bounce back. Bobrovsky, he wasn't bad this season, but he didn't really get hot to the playoffs, and I don't think he's going to be able to keep this up. Like, yes, he may keep it up a little bit, but I think at some point, whether it be here or the Stanley Cup Finals, he's going to crack. And I think the amount of Game 7s the Panthers have played are going to catch up to them. Yes, they're the hot team right now, but what is giving me pause with the Panthers is they've struggled at home in the playoffs. They don't really have that much of a home ice advantage. Now, I'm not saying that they don't play well at home because they can and they have. but I'm just saying they're not as stout at home as the other teams in the East. And I'm saying with how Carolina's played on the road in these playoffs right now, I think I believe they're 4-2 or 5-2 on the road.
Yeah.
They they split with the Devils and they won. They're
Well, they
4-2
won
on the
one at the Devils, and they won one at the Caps. Yeah,
two. So
yeah,
they're 3-2. So
yeah.
honestly, that's not a bad road record for the playoffs. So
No, they're 2-2.
they're 2-2.
Yeah, because they won one at the Caps.
They won two
Uh,
at the Caps. They won one
oh,
at the
two at the
Devils.
Caps. Yeah.
And honestly, and the Caps is a tough place to play. So I think now, with how things have gone, we are going to have to win one on the road, and I think we're capable of doing that. But we cannot have the defensive lapses we had tonight, and I think that'll be rectified when Chetfield's back. Because with us having to put a rookie back there, he had to shuffle the lines and play people. Ron Brittamore had to shuffle the lines and play people together who are not used to playing together on the defensive end. Yes,
Yeah.
people like Orloff and Brett Burns, like they can gain chemistry with people, but when they've been playing on different lines the entire year, it can throw things off. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping Thursday, if we can get back to our regular lines, I like our chances in this series. Because I like the chances they had today. It's just we didn't finish. And I think, and I'm not saying Florida's lucky, but in hockey, you talk a lot about you got to have to get puck luck. And tonight, Florida had 2 goals in the power play. In the previous 12 games in these playoffs, do you know how many power play goals the Canes have given up in 12 games? 2. And we gave up 2 tonight. So I think with Chetfield back, Chetfield's one of our better defenders. He's more experienced. I mean, obviously, Orloff and Slavin are great. Like, those are our best. Like, Slavin's our best guy. But Chetfield's a close second. And Burns is great, but he's old. And sometimes he makes mistakes. And when he's caught out, he's not as athletically inclined as he used to be. And it's, you kind of need someone back there with the old man. And I'm not saying he can't get it done and lay it down and like knock some people over, but he's getting up there. He is not as Toby Keith says, he's not what he once was. He's got a few miles on him now. And no, I'm not saying he doesn't play smart, but he's going to have to be more perfect due to his athletic limitations. He has to be smarter with the puck than he was. And I'm not saying he's not smart with the puck, but I'm saying at times him and Orloff, who's kind of getting up there in age as well, have been making some mistakes. And I think with Chetfield's youth back there, I feel like it'll kind of give him Chetfield, like not only the athleticism he has, but just like the chemistry that he has with his line. I feel like that'll, once the lines go back to once they once were, I think we're fine. Like, I think we have a decent chance. Now, do I think because we dropped the first game, this is definitely going to 7? Absolutely. Like, I thought the Canes were going to win this. And I did predict the Canes winning in 7 in my initial prediction of this. But after how the Canes were playing, in my head, I thought we were going to go in 7. Now, I'm going to stick with my prediction. I think this series is going to go to 7, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Should we preview the Stars and the Oilers a little bit, or do you want to move on to the NBA?
Yeah, we can preview the Stars and Oilers. This is shaping up to be a very exciting matchup. We got Edmonton and Dallas. I'm really high on Dallas. I like their offensive play and how they're able to produce, like producing well against Winnipeg. Once again, that series against the Avalanche, really impressive in my mark. But the Oilers coming off a really solid series with the Golden Knights and only going to 5 games. So we're going to see 2 teams who've had a little bit of good rest time going up against each other. Connor McDavid for the Oilers is going to be somebody that I'm looking out for with his ability to pass the puck around. Jason Robertson from Dallas is also somebody that you got to keep an eye on, leading the team in goals, and Matt Duchesne obviously is another player that's you gotta look out for. In this series, I see the Stars being able to take it in 6. I think Dallas is going to get a really good start. They're going to have home ice advantage for the first two games, and I see them being able to capitalize. I think the Oilers are going to make it tough. I would not be surprised if this series goes to seven as well. It's going to be hard fought on both sides, but if I have to give my uh, brief overview of what I think will go down, I think the Stars take it.
I agree. And what's going to be really entertaining about this series is both of these teams can score basically at will. Or if they're down early and the game's not going their way, there's been games where they've been down several goals. You blink your eye. Like for what I'm thinking of is the Kings and Oilers series. They were down 2 or 3 to the Kings. I like blinked, checked my phone for like 5 minutes, looked up and it was 4-3. They were down either 2-0 or 3-0. I blinked and it was 4-3. Like the same thing with the Stars. Like Mikko Rantanen is up and rolling. Do I wish he could have been doing that for the Hurricanes this year? Yes, but bitch ass didn't want to play for us. So, um, yeah. So I've got the Stars as well. I've got the Stars in 7 in this one. I think this one's going to be back and forth. I think while the Stars have home ice advantage, I think there may be a scare or two on home ice for them, or I think the Oilers may steal one. But the Oilers also haven't been perfect at home either. But such is the nature of the West, it's just absolute fucking chaos right now. Whereas like in the East, you've outside of this one win by the Panthers, the Panthers are the exception in this rule. But in the East, it's kind of like teams have got these like I'll quote the NCAA 25 college football and their description of the Big 12. It's like these outposts that are like snake pits for opposing teams. Like home ice advantage in the East, I feel like is so much more important than it is in the West. But I think that's just because there's a lot of parity in the West and teams are very good road wise. And I'm not saying teams aren't good road wise in the East because we just watched the Hurricanes go 2-1 on the road against the Capitals, who are one of the best teams in the NHL. But like I said, I think it's going to go to 7. I think there's going to be plenty of scares on home ice for both teams. So, anything else you want to add for the NHL, or is it? There's not. I feel like there's not really that much to say about it.
Yeah, I
Shall we
mean
move on?
that pretty much sums it up. Going on to the NBA, OKC took Game 1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, going 114 to 88. Once again, very very solid performance by OKC, just being able to um, fire at all cylinders. Uh, Alexander was able to score 31 points with Jalen Williams going 19 points and Chet Holmgren scoring 15 points. Also, some very solid bench performances from like Alex Caruso and Kenrich Williams. Uh, OKC is just able to fire on all cylinders, and Minnesota just wasn't able to respond. Anthony Edwards had a solid performance with 18 points. Julius Randle, 28 points. But in the end, Rudy Gobert only scoring 2 points, and Mike Conley, 7. Jaden McDaniels, 7. Got not really any solid performances from the bench. Maybe Dante DaVincio scoring 9, Naz Reid 4. Um, just overall, this game was just very handily taken by OKC, and I feel like I kind of expected that coming from Game 1, especially just how dominant OKC has been over the course of these playoffs. Once again, they are my pick for going to the finals, but I wouldn't say it's all doom and gloom for the Timberwolves. Obviously, team stats from OKC, um, shooting 50% at the field goal, 52% at the 3-point, and getting 46 rebounds in total. OKC just dominated, in all aspects of the game, and the shots were just laying down. I feel like Minnesota is going to have a little bounce back in these next couple of games. I do think the shots are going to start falling for them. OKC, like once again, just another kind of perfect night, and being able to capitalize on that. OKC is not going to have every night be a perfect night, though, and I feel like that's what Minnesota needs to capitalize in this series if they hope to take it. I wouldn't count Minnesota out just yet. I still have my money on OKC, but I see OKC taking this in maybe 6 games. I think Minnesota's going to have some fight in them, especially when this series eventually comes back to Minnesota. But I just, with the performance that I've been seeing out of OKC throughout these playoffs, I have no reason to doubt them in their performance in this series.
Yeah, I agree. Just like you said, from what we've seen from the Thunder, I feel like teams, in order to beat them, have to play a perfect game. And even when they play flawless games, OKC still finds a way to win just because the offensive firepower that they have. And I realize that's kind of like a basic take, but I feel like there's not much. I'm not saying there's not much depth to this series, but I'm just saying with how good Oklahoma City is, with how that team's built, they're just able to kind of come at you from all angles and just beat you up. Like they can hit shots, they can score in multiple different ways, and you kind of have to be perfect in every game in order to win. And I don't see a team, at least on the East, or I don't see a team on the West that can challenge them. Maybe in the East, I could see a team maybe taking a game or two against them, or maybe winning a series against them. But and I'm not saying, I mean, the Timberwolves look really good, but I'm just saying with the dominance that I've seen from OKC, and like even when they do lose, they're able to bounce back in a big way. So I just like the momentum this team has. And usually when you describe the team as the hot team, it's they didn't necessarily have the season they wanted. But this team's been red hot. Team's been red hot all year and stayed red hot. So I don't see them cooling down anytime soon.
Yeah,
And
and
then
going
what?
over to the East, we have the Indiana Pacers going up against the New York Knicks. Just a little preview of this matchup. I'm really excited for this series personally. I feel like you got the Pacers who have just had an absolute stellar playoff performances going up against the Bucks and the Cavs, finishing all those games up in 5 games. And they're like a pretty scary team to face right now. The Knicks coming off a series against Boston, they kind of handled the Celtics a little bit. The Celtics had some fight in them, but the Knicks, we kind of saw the writing on the wall early on, and
Yeah.
we knew it was going to go in the favor of the Knicks. It was just a matter of when, not if. And I'm excited to see how this series turns out. Obviously, with the Pacers, you got a lot of firepower coming from like Tyrese Halliburton in his performance against the Cleveland Cavaliers, really able to turn it up. Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, very solid on the Pacers front. For the Knicks, you got guys like Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson. I'm expecting a solid performance from Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. I feel like if they're able to really turn it on and Towns is able to get the rebounds, I see New York being able to out physical the Pacers. But the thing is with the Pacers, they can like score extremely fast and just like it's like we've said before, it just seems like they don't have a plan, but like that's the plan. And I wonder
That's
if
the
this
play.
like I feel like they could easily like outpace, dare I say, the Knicks. And I feel like if New York's able to slow the game down and play the game on their terms, I see the Knicks taking this one I don't really like. I feel like either pick I take, I'm just going to be overlooking another team and their ability. So I almost don't want to pick anyone yet. But if I had to pick, I'll probably say maybe Knicks in seven. I see this being a
Yeah,
very long, drawn out series. I don't see the Pacers continuing their like 4-1 success. I think that's going to stop here. Like I think this is where they are going to meet a brick wall, and I feel like the Knicks are going to be able to answer a lot of the problems that the Pacers give them. But I do see like a couple games where the Pacers just are just going to absolutely take it from the Knicks, and I'm excited for this series.
I am too. What I'm excited about is I think this will be not that we haven't seen enough from the Pacers, but I think this will just kind of show us what the Pacers are about. Because we've heard all season long how Boston fans talk about the Pacers. So, I know some of you have seen
Talk
that
about
meme,
them like prime King of On. Just go like that is not normal, man. He's evil.
but it's similar to Aiden where I don't want to make a prediction on this because it's gonna piss someone off. It's always gonna like granted now I know in this world, no matter what you say, it's gonna piss someone off. But if like
If you're not pissing someone off in this industry, you're not doing your job.
yeah, but to me, outside of my girlfriend and her family, I haven't met a non-obnoxious Celtics fan. I also haven't met a Knicks fan that's not obnoxious either. It could just be me that I'm not big on the NBA. Now, I do like watching the playoffs. It's like the people who enjoy playoff NHL. Like I can respect it because it's like sometimes it just feels like in the NBA there's too many games, like at times. But what I will say is, I'm just saying, this Pacers team. Now, I realize this is a lot different than college, but in college basketball, sometimes you kind of just got to go with your gut feeling. And I've got a good feeling that these Pacers are as scary as these Celtics fans claim. Because that's just the way it's looked. I mean, I thought the Cavs, you know, I thought the Pacers meeting the Cavs was an unstoppable force meeting an unmovable object. That's not what happened. And I think this unstoppable force is going to meet a movable object called the New York Knicks. Not immovable, meet a movable object. Now, similar to Aiden, I think this will go to 7 because I do think the Knicks are very good. The Boston Celtics were very good. And they were able to take advantage of that. Yes, I know when they didn't have whatever that
Jalen Tatum.
fucking Duke player's name is. Yeah, I know it's Tatum. Sorry, not high on Tatum.
Blueberry fact. Garrett,
Blueberry
not not high on Tatum.
Blueberry fact. In his final season at Duke, Jason Tatum threw the game away to an NC State team that was nowhere near 500 in Cameron Indoor. Blueberry facts. Blueberry fact. Duke blew a double-digit lead in Cameron that night, and it was his fault. I'm kidding. I'm playing. It wasn't all his fault at all. He actually spent most of the game on the bench, foul trouble. But I don't know. It could just be that I don't like New York teams, even though I'm not like I follow certain Boston sports, but like I find them insufferable as well at times. Outside of the Red Sox, like, but I don't know. Something about these Pacers, I'm feeling it. Just I've got an inkling, but
He's
like you
hooked on a
said,
feeling.
I'm hooked on a feeling, and you know, there's a time and a place for a plan, like a really stressful situation. But I'm also like big on in my athletic career. At times, the plan was no plan, and that worked really well. But with that being said, I'll give more of an in-depth analysis. I'll give some reasoning. I mean, obviously, you hit the nail on the head with Pascal Siakam, dude shooting above 50% from the field. And yes, I know everyone's saying, well, he's a forward. He's shooting high percentage shots. He should. Okay. And I don't see any other power forwards shooting above 50%. Are you saying they're not doing their job? Also, on the other end, obviously Tyrese Halliburton, big part of this, averages around 18 points, can spread the ball around really well. Who else? Who else am I looking at here? I mean, like I've said with the Pacers, it can come from anywhere, and that's kind of the beautiful thing. Like anyone can step up on a given night. I'm not saying the Knicks can't do that, and they have done that, but I don't know, man. Something about the Pacers having no plan as the plan, it really speaks to me right now. And sometimes in college basketball, you just got to be the hot team. I know this isn't college, but basketball, you just got to be the hot team. I feel like baseball and basketball are very similar in the sense where it's very superstitious sports. And I don't mean like superstitious, oh, I need to rub my lucky nutsack to win the game. I mean, like, like in the sense where, like, if you're hot, like, even the bad shots are going in. Or like in baseball, say you struggle to hit the curve, but within the last couple games, you've been hitting some homers and you're just feeling yourself. And you've been told, hey, kid, don't swing at the breaking balls. But what do? You swing at the breaking ball and it just so happens to work out in your favor. Hey, hot teams are going to find a way. So I've got the Pacers in 7. I do think the Knicks are going to put up a very formidable fight. I think they're going to hold home, at least hold serve at home in the mecca of basketball. That is Madison Square Garden. But no, that's my unprofessional professional analysis on the NBA. I don't watch enough of it. I try to watch more, but I probably watch too much hockey, so and soccer and other stuff. Shall we move on to college baseball? Another
I
thing
wanted
I watch.
to I wanted to give a little detour and talk about the PGA Championship for a
Oh
second.
yes, we forgot. Let's go. Let's hit
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So let's say PGA Championship wrapped up this weekend in Quail Hollow. Um, Overall, pretty good weekend of golf. I wanted to highlight a couple players. First off, Scotty Scheffler able to run away with the tournament, scoring minus 11 overall on the weekend. He had a really like standout round 3 game where he was able to shoot, I believe it was like minus 6 on the whole day. Got a eagle on hole 14. That was like absolute great shot on that par 4. Able to get out of there in only 2 strokes. Um, he just stands out above everybody else. Closest people to him were Harris English and Bryson DeChambeau and Davis Riley, all shooting minus 6 throughout the tournament. One player I wanted to give a highlight to, because honestly, for the first couple days, I thought I was doing research. I was like, who is this guy? But Jonathan Vegas absolutely was able to uh, run with it for the first 2 rounds. And I had to like do research and everything because he's 40 from Venezuela. I had never heard of this man before in my life, and I was just like, who is this guy? I was in the bathroom one day. I was just like I was out in public, and I was just like, yo, who is this guy? I need to find who is this agent that has infiltrated. What are his motives? Scoring 64 round 1 and 70 round 2. It was looking really good until everybody kind of like moving day on round 3 is what really changed everything. He was able to stay in the top 5 this weekend, so shout out to him. Really impressive showing. Didn't really uh, expect him to make as big of a splash, but ended up making it interesting in the end. But the weekend belonged to Scotty Scheffler, uh, really able to continue his dominant run that he's been having over the past couple years. I did send a fun infograph to Gareth, with the PGA Championship being held in Charlotte, it is important to note that Scotty Scheffler has more tournament wins since 2022 than the Carolina Panthers have wins since 2022. I believe Carolina Panthers have like 13 wins total, and Scotty Scheffler
14.
14, and Scotty Scheffler has 15 tournament wins. So shout out Scotty Scheffler for outperforming the Carolina Panthers. But yeah, other than that, real interesting weekend. Let's see if I can give a highlight to Jordan Spieth did not make the cut. Shane Lowry did not make the cut. Um, let's see. I didn't know where. Roy McIlroy ended the weekend +3. Did not have the best weekend. I
He's
was wondering.
hungover.
Yeah, a little
He's
bit.
hungover.
I mean, he just got the career Grand Slam. He's like, bro, I don't care bro,
He's
I don't
drinking
care.
before competitions at this point.
Yeah.
He's trying to do
Uh,
it drunk.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was hoping DeChambeau was going to have a good performance, and he made out pretty well. I mean, uh, top like three, tied for second, so can't really blame him. Had a pretty solid round three. Kind of fell off near the end on hole 16 and 17, but it doesn't really overshadow the fact that he had a pretty solid round. And uh, just overall, a good win for Scotty Scheffler, able to run away with it. And yeah, that kind of sums up my PGA Championship summary. Next month, we have the US Open. So I'm looking forward to that.
I need to watch that. I wasn't able to watch the PGA Championship because my girlfriend graduated this weekend, but from the
Congratulations.
5 minutes I saw on
Congratulations.
TV,
Congratulations to her. Yeah,
not that I'm complaining. I'm just saying I got to see 5 minutes on TV.
yeah.
Scotty looked good in the 5 minutes I saw him on TV. So.
But this year, the U.S. Open will be held in Oakmont Country Club in Oakmont, Pennsylvania. So look forward to
Ooh.
that. That's going to be June 12th. So coming up.
Yeah. Shall we proceed on to
The baseball.
the baseball?
Well, yeah. I want to say UNC almost secured the sweep against FSU, but was unable to. UNC was able to win the first two games against FSU, but unfortunately unable to secure the sweep. Gareth was saying it was kind of a little bit of a choke job, but I'm not going to lie. I am happy with this weekend, and I'm happy with how everything turned out on the baseball front. Um, in the end, Carolina secures the 2 seed. I don't know if my headphones just cut out, but I'll keep on talking. But yeah, big weekend last weekend. UNC moves up to number 3, I believe, in national rankings, and just continues their winning ways going into this week, where they're going to be in the ACC tournament. And we have the brackets up right now. Gareth, if you want to give overview of NC State baseball.
Yeah, the series wasn't great this week against Stanford, but oh well. Stanford's only 2 ACC series wins this year were against State and Carolina. Not a great look, but What I will say is the series was kind of comical. NC State won big on Thursday, but what surprised me was Stanford didn't use that many pitchers. And keep that in the back of your head for a bit. For a bit, just Aiden and I had a long conversation before the show. Stanford used, I think, one pitcher on Friday or on Thursday. Okay, keep that in the back of your head. All right, so Saturday, unlucky pitchers duel. Stanford went in extra innings off of a weird hop that bounced off the ground weirdly and hit our shortstop and went through his legs. They win 4-3 in extras. Hats off, and they played good. Our offense just wasn't there that game. But Sunday, this pissed me off. Not the result. I had to double check, and it wasn't as many as I thought. But Stanford used 10 pitchers. I told you before the show 11. I went back and counted, and they used 10 pitchers against NC State. For those who didn't watch this game, I'll tell you what you missed out on. The second a motherfucker made a mistake, they pulled them. I'm talking, you give up a hit. Bye-bye. You walk a batter. Bye-bye. Aiden's like, what precedent does this send? He's like, what if like the Stanford starter was just absolutely dealing? Like 9 strikeouts through like 4 innings. And then he gives up a hit. And he's like, then they bring in Tommy No Nuts, who was out blackout drunk last night because he thought he wasn't playing. And now he's going to pitch an inning against one of the best batting teams in the nation with some of the most RBIs in the nation. And then, he threw a ball. We're bringing in the true freshman, Johnny No Nuts Jr., who hasn't thrown a pitch since sophomore year. And he's like, what does this say to the psyche? And so that, Aiden, I will say Stanford, over the course of the year, has been consistently told they're not the best bullpen in college baseball. And that's putting it nicely. Like, Aiden, there's been articles about how bad their bullpen and their pitching staff is. So I think they're aware of it. And I think their goal this weekend was honestly just to play spoiler. Like, if you saw how many pitchers they used in the first 2 games, they did not care. I think they were putting all their eggs in their basket of the Saturday game because they'd bring a pitcher in. There was a few breaking balls, but I think the plan there is clear. They'd have their pitchers come in and throw fastballs to force weak contact, and they just get out of the inning and pull them. So, like, there was one inning Stanford went through like 3 pitchers because each guy gave up a hit and loaded the bases. And then, 4. But it was, it's disappointing NC State couldn't lock up the series and win the ACC regular season title. But honestly, winning the regular season title doesn't do much for you. The big thing was the double bye. NC State will be the 4 seed going into this weekend, and I like where they are. I think if they win 2 games, they'll be able to get a regional host back. But honestly, being slated to be in Coastal Carolina's regional with like no other really there's some good teams, but I wouldn't say there's anyone threatening in it. So I will say things are looking better than they could be right now. Better than they could be, but I'm still pissed off about the 10 pitchers. That I feel like that's excessive. At that point, why are you even there? So, but no, we'll hop into our ACC tournament preview. Well, I'll start with this. This is the first year the ACC tournament will not be using pool play. For those of you who don't know, the ACC tournament used to you'd be in pools of 3 teams, and whoever won the most games would move on. I don't know why this never happened. Don't ask me what happens if each team wins a game rock, paper, scissors style, because I don't remember. And I'm not going to look up the rules. There may have been a tiebreaker game.
I'm not gonna lie. This is like when they had pool play, and I know Big Ten has pool play now. I wasn't paying as much attention to ACC baseball, but just from the casual lens, I'm taking on more of a proactive look into different tournaments and how they're played and stuff like that. I was so confused when ACC pool play was in effect because I would be like, oh, cool. My favorite team's playing today, and they're scheduled to play tomorrow. oh wait, they're canceled. What the hell happened? Like I skipped one day and then like half the landscape of ACC basketball has fucking changed now, and I'm just like, what the fuck did I miss?
And it's
But
like, I thought I'd get to see this team. Now they're not even, because they lost the first game, they're not even making the tournament anymore.
I was like, what? But I kind of
You,
like this. I like this new format more. I mean, it's a little bit more simple, but yeah, continue.
but no, this is the first year single elimination. Today, I think we had all upsets today, if I'm not mistaken. I think we had all upsets. Sorry, outside of Stanford, Virginia Tech, I think we
Yeah,
had 3 upsets. We had Cal absolutely just, and I've been high on Cal all year. I've been high on Cal all year. I will say I just think they're really inexperienced. I mean, Cal is one of the most successful college baseball programs there is. They've just got a really young roster. Very talented, very talented. Like I could see flashes of it against NC State. I could see flashes of it against Florida State, but you could tell that they just didn't have the experience to finish it out. Like you could just tell it's not there. Same thing with Stanford. Like I just think they've got a young roster, and like you could see it in the flashes, obviously against State, Carolina, and other teams where you could see the gears turning, but just because the what's it called, the experience wasn't there, they weren't able to finish the job in certain scenarios. But today, Cal absolutely just ass blasts Miami. Like that wasn't even close. Everyone was like so high on Miami, and they were like, "Oh, they may be vying for a regional host." Honestly, I don't know if they make the tournament after losing first round. Like they were good. Aiden, I'll give them that. They were the hottest team in the country, and they beat State in a convincing fashion. But I think the flame may be out for them.
yeah,
I don't know what you think, but I feel like losing. Like I feel like Miami was going to make the tournament, but I think losing first round was the one thing they couldn't do,
and they did.
and they did.
Yeah,
Next
I
game.
mean,
Oops, sorry.
not
Go ahead.
definitely not the greatest of showings for Miami,
That's putting
which
it nicely.
I mean, losing 12-2 is a little bit outrageous in my books, but you know what? Personally, you do you. I mean, it's not my tournament hopes that you're ruining. Like, yeah, you don't need to study for the final exam, but like, hey, it's not my grade.
Just don't fail the final exam. Fails final exam.
Cheats and fails on final exam.
Virginia Tech, Stanford, Virginia Tech taking the win there. Looked good. Another team where I feel like they were kind of on the bubble. They were hot earlier this season. They're not hot anymore, but they were hot earlier in the season. Another team where I was like, you really can't lose first round. And what does Louisville do? They lose first round. No,
I'll give you this one. That Pittsburgh Louisville game
no.
was pretty interesting. Um,
Like it
uh,
wasn't embarrassing like the Cal game, but like goddamn.
yeah, no. I mean, just looking at like that game, I mean, just runs were going around everywhere, and hang on, what the fuck? No, I don't want an annual subscription to D1 baseball. What the hell? $139 for an annual subscription to D1 baseball? Get the fuck out of here. But anyway, as I was saying, like that game ran long. I mean, bats were flying, just absolute offensive showcase on both sides of the ball. And I found it to be really interesting. And Pittsburgh really showed like some grit in it. And I'm gonna say, like, honestly, these are like kind of like my two sleeper teams, like just in general, because like I saw some potential in Pittsburgh, and Louisville absolutely gave UNC the fits earlier this season. But Pittsburgh's just proven that they can get hot like later in the season. So Don't be surprised if you see like some type of run coming from them, especially going up against a team like Duke. I just gotta say, like, I gotta put it out there. Like, Pittsburgh is really good. Let me say this: my condolences to any Boston College or Notre Dame fan. First pitch of this game was at 10:30. I was texting Gareth to see if I wanted to do a bit because we record this podcast pretty late at night. I was thinking of just driving over to the Notre Dame Boston College game and just recording the podcast there. But uh, no, it didn't. It didn't turn out that way. But Boston College able to get the win against Notre Dame in extra innings, 10 innings. Boston College, I'm going to say they had a lot more fight in them than I expected. This Notre Dame team was looking pretty good, but just unable to close it out near the end. Boston College got ahead pretty early, and it was looking like Notre Dame was playing like catch up the whole game. Eventually, Notre Dame was able to tie it up, but Boston College was just able to get that final boost in that 10th inning, scoring a pivotal run to, I believe it was, I want to say like a double that got the final guy in, which sealed the game for Boston College, which seals the first 4 games of the ACC tournament. We're now moving on. Later today, there will be a matchup, Wake Forest versus California, starting at 9, just a couple hours from now, so can't wait for that.
But the last game finished not 7 hours before the next one.
Yep. Yo, shout out to the workers there. They're absolutely putting in overtime right now. I bet, like, just irrigation, all the concessions people. We got to give a shout out to them because this week is going to be hell for them. But I hope they get paid good.
Oh, here, in honor of that,
Hell yeah.
funny enough, this will come into play later in the episode. Gareth has a point, and Gareth's going to go do something.
But Wake versus Forest versus Cal starts off today, leading up to Clemson versus Virginia Tech. Then we Duke playing Pittsburgh, and the night is rounded out with Virginia playing Boston College tonight. So overall, a very solid lineup for day 2 of the ACC tournament. I'm personally really excited for Duke versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has been proven that they've been pretty hot. They're going to be considered the home team in this matchup, and I'm just going to say I've seen Duke play. I don't pay attention to them necessarily as much, but they're a very solid ACC opponent. But Duke needs to look out for Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh can just like turn it on offensively, and if bats are swinging, I pick Pitt in a shootout. But it's going to have to be through some solid pitching play to Duke through Duke to really secure this matchup. Um, let's see. Wake Forest versus Cal. That's another one that I think should be pretty exciting. Too bad I'm probably going to be asleep for it because it is 3 in the morning. But Wake Forest, I like them a lot, and I like Cal a lot too. Cal really like surprised me with their performance against Miami, so maybe they could probably play spoiler to Wake Forest today and really make a good run. But what do you see from these lineups of games, Gareth?
For me personally, I think the dream. Honestly, this Wake Forest team's not been very convincing. I mean, they have a series win against Florida State, but they've not been hot lately. I've got Cal winning this one. Virginia Tech, Clemson. I've got Clemson winning that one. I don't know. Virginia Tech's been on and off. It depends on which Virginia Tech we get. Is it the Virginia Tech from Friday, Saturday games, or the Virginia Tech from Sunday games? Because Virginia Tech on Sunday games has been interesting to say the least. Duke, Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's kind of the hot team right now. I've got Duke. Just the way they play, Duke is one of those teams where they don't have a specific play style. They can have big bats or they can run kind of a small ball where it's base running and laying down bunts and, squeezing extra bases because of smart base running. So I've got them. And then I've got Virginia taking it over Boston College tonight at 9 p.m. Virginia is a team where they're very hot and cold. They're either giving up a lot of runs or scoring a lot of runs or coming back from big deficits or giving up big deficits. Like I said, they're the kind of team you don't want to face. Right? Virginia is the kind of team you don't want to face right now. If you just look at their season, I mean, ranked wins, ranked losses, coming back from double-digit runs, blowing double-digit run leads. Shout out NC State game. That was fun. Don't give up 2 grand slams in 2 consecutive innings. I think that's kind of like a universal rule in baseball. But outside of that, I mean, I feel like we're in for a good day. I mean, I wouldn't say those are lock picks by any stretch of the imagination for me, but I feel like, unfortunately, I will be up for the Wake Forest Cal game because I have to go to my rental office tomorrow to re-sign my lease. But
I just remembered I got to get up too for a haircut, so you know what? I will be up to hear it on the radio while I'm driving over.
Oh yeah. With that being said, we'll proceed on to the next round of predictions that we have for the ACC baseball tournament. So second round, we're now on to our quarterfinals of predictions. So, Aiden, you want to start us off with the quarterfinal game 9 between Georgia Tech and the winner of Cal and Wake Forest?
Well, I see. I think I have Cal winning that one. So, in a matchup between Georgia Tech and Cal, Georgia Tech just being as hot as they are, I think the Cal strain's going to stop there, and I got Georgia Tech moving on. Which leads us to Game 10, where NC State is going to play the winner of Clemson and Virginia Tech. I got Clemson winning that one. And then in a matchup between Clemson and NC State, like, you see, Clemson's weird, and like, NC State's also weird. I could very well see a possibility where Clemson beats NC State, but I'm going to give NC State the benefit of the doubt. I'm saying NC State moves on. But that brings us to our Friday games, where we have the Game 7 winner of Duke and Pittsburgh playing FSU. I could see Pitt winning. You see, here's the thing. Like, I'm very high on FSU, but like, Pitt's really good and Duke's really good. So I could see a world where Florida State falls off to this winner of Game 7. But I have Pitt winning against Duke. So I don't see FSU losing to Pitt. So I have FSU moving on. And that would end up our Friday matchups with, what I have is UVA beating Boston College, and UVA will be playing North Carolina. I have UNC winning that one, which leads my Saturday matchups being Georgia Tech versus NC State. I have Georgia Tech winning that one, and UNC playing Florida State. You see, with like UNC already winning the series against Florida State, like I just have questions of whether UNC would like finish out, and UNC's already kind of locked in with like being like the number 3 team in the nations. I don't know if they're confirmed for a super regional, but I could very well see a world where FSU beats UNC. So I'm going FSU for that. And then in FSU versus Georgia Tech, I have FSU winning.
Yep. I will say, I've got I've got Cal over Wake Forest. I mean, I really don't think either of us really trust Wake Forest with the season they've had. I feel like they overperform against good teams and underperform against bad teams. So I've got Cal on that one. From there, Virginia Tech, Clemson. I've got Clemson there. Then moving on, I've got Duke over Pitt. Duke, I feel like Pitt, they are the hot team right now, but I feel like Pitt's pitching can be suspect at times. And Duke can play any way you need them to. They can play small ball. They can play with big bats. They can do anything they need. So I've got Duke in that one. And then I've got UNC over UVA. I got UVA is just too inconsistent. Their highs are high, but their lows are low. But those lows are really low. Moving on, Georgia Tech, Cal. Obviously, I got Georgia Tech over Cal. Georgia Tech's the hot team right now. I've got State over Clemson. They're both kind of weird, but I think just with how the home series went, Clemson did not look like Clemson's a really good team, but I just don't think they match up well with NC State. And that's kind of the nature of sports. Like, while you may Clemson's been dominant all season, but I really don't think they match up well with NC State with their style of play, what their pitchers specialize, and I feel like it just kind of plays into the way NC State wants to play. From there, I've got Florida State over Duke. I really don't see that being that close. And then I've got and then like I said, I got UNC over UVA. From there, I've got NC State over Georgia Tech. I will say I do have kind of a hot take about Georgia Tech. Deservedly, they won the ACC. They played their games. They won. We're not going to get into SEC hypotheticals here because they're undefeated hypotheticals. But what I will say is Georgia Tech did not play the other three teams with a double bye in the ACC tournament. Georgia Tech did not play Carolina State or Florida State. Now, I'm not saying they don't deserve to win the ACC regular season. I'm saying, I'm very big on, if you take care of your business and you succeed or win, because that's great. You took care of your business. That's sports. You take care of your business, you win. Good. There really can't be any complaints about that. But what I will say is I really don't know what to expect out of this Georgia Tech team because of that. Yes, they played Clemson, but outside of that doesn't really give you a good scope on who they are as a team when it comes to these big games. And outside of that Stanford series, I'm really happy with how NC State's year's gone and how they've matched up with a good team. So I've got State in that one. Contrary to what you're thinking, Aiden, granted, it's going to depend on what pitcher it is that day for Carolina. But I've got Carolina over Florida State. Florida State really did not look that impressive against UNC. Now, I know Carolina's pitching staff's dominant, and it's really going to depend on how Carolina decides to play their pitching staff in this ACC tournament, whether they're going to make Jake Knapp their day one starter or they're going to save him for a bigger team, like if they run into Florida State or like at NC State in the finals. But I could see UNC not using Knapp in their first game and saving him for Florida State, seeing as how well he performed against them. Yeah. Now, granted, each successive time you see a pitcher, this is just statistics. Pitchers have a limited repertoire, and statistically, you will be better against a guy who you've seen before. Because you can strike a guy out in a million ways, but there's certain sequences and tunnelings guys go to, and you learn that the more you play against them. So, but I've still got UNC. I think Jake Knapp's more of like a weak contact guy. I mean, he can get strikeouts all he needs. I'm not saying that's not his thing, but when it comes to pitchers, like when you have an ace pitcher, when they're really good and have a really low ERA, there's two kinds of guys. There's strikeout guys and there's weak contact guys. Weak contact guys are usually really consistent. They will have games where they get a lot of strikeouts, but they usually have a lower ERA. And there's strikeout guys where one game they'll throw like 21 strikeouts and give up no hits, but then the next game they get homered off of 7 times. That's just the nature of it. But I think with Jake Knapp being a pitcher where instead of focusing on strikeouts, he just focuses on getting the out, I feel like that's going to play well into UNC's hands, and that there's not much for him to tip his like hand to for Florida State. So I really don't think they've seen much. And I don't mean that in like a Jake Knapp's not good. I mean that and they haven't seen much as like, since he really doesn't try and go for the jugular, there's nothing to really key in on. He's just trying to get the out. If he gets the strikeout, that's fine. He's happy with that. That's a good result. But he's really just trying to get the out and get the offense back out there, which I think, while he is Carolina's, I'd say, biggest ace in their deck, their batting is where like their main strength is, and they're a lot more consistent. Like Knapp's awesome, and Carolina's got some great other great pitchers, but they're not up to the level of Knapp. Now Carolina's offense is another story. They're all really consistent, really big bats, can swing the ball well. They can score a lot of runs in a blink of an eye. That's why I've got UNC over Florida State. So that means in my ACC finals, we'll have State versus Carolina. I feel like it just has to end this way. The State-Carolina series didn't have a winner. For me, it's got to end this way. I mean, I've got to go with State in this one, but Carolina
in that event, I have UNC beating State. I tried to remain unbiased throughout this entire tournament predictions that I have. I really try not to let my Carolina bias shine through. But
be biased, Aiden. Be biased. Come on. That's what this is for, Aiden. This is for your opinions. You're supposed to be biased, Aiden.
Ah, shit. Well, if we're doing my opinions, then like my very biased and not looking at it from like an analytical lens. All right. Redo. You know what? We're calling for a redo. Calling for a redo right now. Flag on the play. We redoing this. Georgia Tech versus what was it? Cal or Wake Forest. We got Georgia Tech beating Cal. I have Clemson beating well, no, I just have Clemson playing NC State. I got Clemson beating NC State on that one because I'm biased. So Clemson moving on. FSU playing what was it? Pitt Duke. I got Pitt beating Duke and FSU winning. UVA obviously losing to UNC. I got Clemson beating Georgia Tech. UNC beating Florida State, and then UNC just winning this whole damn thing. Fine then. That's my Aiden We Ball bracket. That's my Aiden We Ball bracket. But like before, that was just kind of like my all right. Try to be look at all the analytics because I really do like Florida State a lot. Like I feel like so the Florida UNC game I feel like is a real toss up for me, just because I don't know how Jake Knapp's going to be played. I think the technical smart way would just be use him against UVA. Secure the first win. Like don't like my philosophy is listen, use your best players when they are available and try to do that. Like don't try to plan for tomorrow. Don't try to like do some fancy stuff. If you're in a position like you are right here, you need like a playoff win just to like kind of really secure your case. You don't need the ACC tournament altogether. You just need a win against UVA. That's how my opinion is. So that's why I feel like Jake Knapp's going to be used against UVA. But if they decide, hey, played well against FSU, let's send him out this one. Let's rest him. UVA, not our biggest formidable opponent. Let's just save it for who is our biggest formidable opponent, which is Florida State. I'd say in that scenario, UNC wins against FSU. But I just don't know what the starting lineup strategies are going to be for those games. And I would love to see a matchup between NC State and UNC for the championship. Like you can't write this stuff. But I hate State, so State losing to Clemson. Why? Because I said so.
Yeah, what I will say is a lot of these predictions are going to depend on how teams are going to play their pitchers. Because in college, a lot more teams will do what Aiden and I have talked about with State Carolina series and save the ace. But now that's more common in the College World Series, where say you're in a regional and you're the 1 seed playing the 4 seed. Like, you're Carolina playing fucking Siena College. You're not gonna waste Jake Knapp on that when you've got like Tennessee tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, and I'm not saying UVA is Siena level, but like a lot of my predictions surrounding these top 4 seeds, all these top 4 seeds have really, really dominant day one starters. And I'm really in it. A lot of my now, I know that's going to be like, oh, well, you're changing the rules, but a lot of how I think about these series is going to be based on how these guys are going to play their day one starters. And the reason why I have State over Clemson is because Clemson's day one starter, like, he is probably the second best pitcher in the ACC, just behind Jake Knapp, and he is really solid. Like, now he doesn't lead the ACC in strikeouts. That's NC State's Dom Fritton, but like I said, with strikeout pitchers, they go no hitter one game, but then they fucking give up 17 nukes the next one. So that's my main issue with State's pitcher. But like I said, a lot of this is going to depend on where it is. If UNC saves Knapp, like if UNC for whatever reason decides we're saving Knapp for either the semifinal or the final, like say for whatever reason Duke beats Florida State, UNC handled Duke. I know it was 2-1, but I'd say they handled that series pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
If UNC saves Knapp for State, like I'd say UNC's got it. It's like Knapp, like there's a reason we like conceded the first game. There's a reason we conceded the first game.
First one, that's a mulligan.
First, I'll tell you what I just saw later. I'll tell you what I just come across my phone later.
Oh no!
I'll tell you what I saw later.
Oh no! No.
But yeah, a lot of how I feel about this, like I said, I know I've said this multiple times. A lot of how I feel about these series is who's starting. Like Florida State, or is that when's their a lot of you saw that, right?
Hang on.
But a lot of how I feel about these series is going to be dependent on who starts when. Like when NC State's going to use Dom Fritton, when UNC is going to use Jake Knapp, when Clemson's going to use their ace. So, yeah. That's how I feel about that one. So should we move on to another conference?
Yeah, let's move on to the Big Ten Conference. I wanted to do a brief. First, I wanted to summarize the games that have happened. So, the Big Ten Conference, they do pool play, and Pool A has Oregon, Nebraska, Michigan State. Pool B has UCLA, Michigan, and Illinois. Pool C has Iowa, Indiana, and Rutgers. And Pool D has USC, Washington, and Penn State. Today's matchups, we had Illinois beating Michigan, Rutgers beating Indiana, and Nebraska beating Michigan State. Overall, I could go into every single matchup and like predict it, but from what I've been seeing so far and like just my outlook on everything, I think the winners of each division, I think Oregon's going to take Pool A. I think Pool B, that's going to be pretty interesting because I really like Illinois. But UCLA has just continued to be dominant, and they actually have their matchup today at 10 a.m. So I'm excited to see how that goes. The winner of that, in my mind, just decides who wins Pool B. With Illinois already beating Michigan, I don't see Michigan beating UCLA. I have to go UCLA for Pool B. Pool C, once again, really interesting. I think Iowa and Rutgers are going to be like my two teams that I like really want to keep an eye on, and they actually play today at 6 p.m. So Wednesday is going to be a pretty big day when it comes to just like deciding some of these pools. Iowa, I believe, is the favorite They've had a pretty dominant season overall, 32-20. I don't know. I see Rutgers and I get a little bit excited, I feel like not a lot of people are putting respect on Rutgers. I'm not saying they're like the best team ever, but I'm just saying they have a little, I don't know, they have a little something to them that I like. And
Scott Knights.
I got Rutgers leaving Pool C in like an upset. And then Pool D, USC versus and Washington and Penn State. I got USC winning this one. So pretty much it's all West Coast schools plus Rutgers for a championship in Omaha, Nebraska. So this is the state of current realignment. I believe that would make if how do these groupings work? Is it Pool A plays Pool D, E, B? Like it's not saying right now. Hang on.
It might be highest available versus lowest available, and then the two middles play.
I see.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I know it's statistically stupid to say that Iowa is going to lose to Rutgers because like Iowa is number 3 and Rutgers is 10. I don't know. I see Rutgers and I'm excited for Rutgers. So if we're going highest available, so Rutgers would play Oregon, UCLA would play USC. I got Oregon beating Rutgers. I got UCLA beating USC. And then in the championship game, I got Oregon beating UCLA.
Interesting. For me, I've got Oregon coming out of Pool A. Pool B, I've got UCLA, just, college baseball powerhouse. Iowa coming out of Pool C. Pool D, the logical choice would be Washington, right? Or USC or Washington. But I don't believe in quitters because you see, Washington, for those of you who don't know, was playing an NAIA school last week and was losing in the 7th inning. And the game had to be abandoned because the light fixtures weren't working. I went back and watched the film. I got the receipts.
Ooh.
I don't know. Those light fixtures seem to be working. That's all I'm saying.
Gareth, are you suggesting that Washington basically sabotaged a game so it wouldn't look bad on their resume?
That's exactly what I'm implying, Aiden. Because the Big Ten and the SEC are some shady motherfuckers. Hey, look at it this way: the Big Ten, not the strongest baseball conference. They're slated to maybe not even get 2 teams in. Not even 2 teams. Maybe 2 if they're lucky. I'm just saying they're trying to save face and save RPI here. So for me, Penn State is coming out of that pool. Because I don't believe in forfeiting, and I don't believe in abandoning a game against like fucking Northwestern Mutual or whatever their name was. Portland Northwestern or whatever, some NAIA school. No disrespect. That was their final game of the season too. Like these boys, like this was their Super Bowl. Like I'm not aware that NAIA has a College World Series. I know D2 and D3 do because my girlfriend's family friend's playing in that right now. So shout out to not Endicott. Shout out to Salve Regina playing in the D3 College World Series. But all I'm saying is fuck them. Fuck Washington and fuck USC. So that leaves me with Oregon against Penn State and UCLA versus Iowa. And honestly, I've actually got Iowa upsetting UCLA, and I've got Oregon beating Penn State, unfortunately. And then from there, I've got Oregon winning the Big Ten for baseball. So, yeah, we don't like quitters here. Don't forfeit your game against Northwestern Mutual Insurance. Yeah, so moving on, do you want to go to Big 12 or once 4 automatic bids? I mean, the SEC.
I mean, let's jump over to, hang on. Let's jump over to SEC right now. So far, this week we had Alabama beat Missouri 4-1. Oklahoma beat Kentucky 5-1. Florida beat South Carolina 11-3, and we are waiting for Mississippi State against Texas A&M for to finish out round 1. Mississippi State and Texas A&M will be playing today at 9:30, if I am not mistaken, and I am not. So, to finish out the round 1, I have. You see, it's a little bit weird because I believe. So Texas A&M, what happened, man? I saw that Texas A&M lost to Missouri in a sweep. That is just absolutely unacceptable. Missouri literally was about to be a winless SEC team, like winless in conference play. But Texas A&M made sure that the good old boys down in Missouri got 3 solid wins to their resume before they went off to SEC play. But other than that, I mean, Texas A&M has been absolutely hot. They've been able to take down like some of the best teams. They've had high highs and very low lows. I believe Texas A&M is going to take the game against Mississippi State, which leads us to round 2, where we have Tennessee playing Alabama. I got Alabama winning that one. We got Oklahoma versus Georgia. I got Georgia beating Oklahoma. We have Florida versus Ole Miss. I don't know something about it. I'm feeling Florida for that one. And then Auburn versus Texas A&M. I have Auburn. Actually, I have Texas A&M winning that one in the event that Texas A&M wins. Alabama versus Texas. Give me Texas. Georgia versus Vanderbilt. Give me Vanderbilt. Florida versus Arkansas. Give me Arkansas. And Texas A&M versus LSU. Give me LSU. So then Texas versus Vanderbilt. Give me Texas. Arkansas versus LSU. Give me LSU. Texas versus LSU in the championship game. Give me Texas. Texas has been like pretty dominant. And granted, like once again, like college baseball is weird because it feels like every year the team that's like not expected to win always has like an absolute killer run in a conference tournament. The top seeds usually tend to not fare as well. But I don't know. If we're just going off of teams playing their best players available and like no injuries, nothing, just everything's in a vacuum. I can't deny the greatness that is Texas. Texas has been absolutely electric on all sides of the ball, and I believe statistically speaking, like they're just the best SEC team and one of the best teams in the country overall. And if that's just the basis that I'm going off of predicting these games, like taking all the antics and the wildness and the weird starting shenanigans, I'm going to have to go with Texas.
Makes sense. I think my SEC bracket looks very similar to yours. I've got Texas A&M upsetting Mississippi State. Mississippi State's kind of one of those teams that's on the border of making it. Then we'll go to game 5 between Alabama and Tennessee. I've got Tennessee taking that one. Got Georgia taking the win over Oklahoma. I got, much like you, I've got a feeling about Florida. Florida's going to take the win over Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a team that's kind of on that 2-3 seed line. I think a loss to Florida will push them down to the 3 seed line. Then from there, I'd have the winner of Mississippi State versus Texas A&M. I've got Texas A&M taking on Auburn. From there, Texas A&M's been, like I said, Aiden mentioned, they've been hot, but then they just shit the bed against Missouri. But I've actually got Auburn in that one. So moving on to the second round, I'll have Tennessee versus Texas. I've got Texas over them. Then I've got Vandy, Georgia. In that game, I've got Georgia. Then I've got Arkansas, Florida. I've got Florida in that one. Then I've got LSU versus Auburn. I got LSU in that one. Then I have Texas versus Georgia. I've got Texas in that one. Then I've got LSU versus Florida. I got LSU over Florida. And then in the final, summer 8, I've got LSU and Texas. But in this one, I've actually got LSU winning the SEC in that one. But like you're saying, Aiden, like you and I have hinted at, with all the fucking mind games there is with who's the starting pitcher for that day. And you kind of hit the nail on the head with this, in that college baseball is weird in that based off of when you kind of like some teams, there's a massive drop off in pitching, and a team could be the number one team when they've got their guy. Like when they've got their guy, then the number one team. But that's kind of baseball. It's baseball. Your ranking and how you do is kind of a representative of more of who you are as a team as a whole. Like, and not just your day one. Like, sure. Like, I feel this way about Clemson. Clemson's day one squad is dominant. But when you get to kind of the back end, they've lost a few series where it's, they've blown out a team in game 1, but then they drop game 2 and game 3 in kind of unimpressive manners. So, like I said, there's always going to be mind games with who's starting. It's actually really common in the College World Series to save the ace. It's happened a few times in the MLB, and it's kind of, 50-50 on whether it works or not. So I wouldn't call it a strategy. I'd more call it a theory. But like you said, for me, I've got LSU winning. But obviously, in a vacuum, I'd have Texas. Like if I had Texas's first line versus LSU's first line, I've got Texas. But with how I know, and I don't know how they're going to play it, I think LSU is the better team when it comes to their day 2 and day 3 teams, which obviously it's really going to depend who shows up. But for me, I've got LSU winning the SEC. On to the Big 12.
On to the Big 12. Big 12 conference tournament starts today with Arizona State going up against BYU. Game 2 starts at 12:30 with Cincinnati versus Texas Tech. Then we go into Game 3 with Oklahoma State versus Baylor. And rounding out today, we have Kansas State versus Houston. In today's matchups, I do have Arizona State taking down BYU. BYU has just not been impressive at all. And Arizona State, I'm feeling as a sneaky style team, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of people are kind of sleeping on them, but they've had some like really solid wins, but also some kind of embarrassing losses. Overall, 18-12 in the Big 12 with an overall of 35 and 21. I think they're going to be my pick for a team that makes like kind of like a little bit of a sneaky run. Then we got Cincinnati versus Texas Tech. I got Texas Tech in this one. Oklahoma State versus Baylor. Give me Oklahoma State. And then Kansas State versus Houston. Give me Kansas State on that one. Tomorrow, that matchup of Arizona versus Arizona State. Give me Arizona State. West Virginia versus Texas Tech. Give me West Virginia. Kansas versus Oklahoma State. Give me Kansas. And then TCU versus Kansas State. TCU, I feel like, I don't know. I have some kind of, I guess, mixed opinions on. Didn't really carry out with Arizona State earlier on in the season. TCU currently 37-17, very solid. Had some convincing sweeps against teams like Kansas, but I just kind of question some aspects of their game. So in a game with TCU and Kansas State, I'm going to have to go with Kansas State. So then game 9 on Friday, I would have Arizona State versus West Virginia, and then Kansas versus Kansas State. Give me West Virginia and Kansas in the championship game, and West Virginia winning outright. West Virginia just really, really impressive in my opinion. They've had some pretty solid matchups in the Big 12. Hang on, I just want to see if I can pull up some statistics here. West Virginia is 40-13 overall. Just shown dominance, swept a lot of Big 12 teams like UCF and such, but they've had kind of some lackluster performances against Kansas State and Kansas. So I do think they would kind of right these wrongs in the championship game, regardless of it's Kansas or Kansas State. I'm just saying be on the lookout for a close game.
Makes sense. Big 12, I've got Arizona State over BYU. This is not going to look great, but I've basically got chalk in the first round. Big 12 is kind of top heavy. I know they've had some upsets, but I've got Arizona State over BYU, Cincinnati over Texas Tech, Oklahoma State over Baylor, Kansas State over Houston. Then from there, I've got I've got a good feeling about Arizona State. I've got Arizona State over Arizona. Then I've got obviously West Virginia over Cincinnati. I'm really, really high on West Virginia. Then from there, I've got Kansas over Oklahoma State. And then I've got TCU over Kansas State. I know, a lot of chalk. From there, since they'll likely have a regional locked up, give me Arizona State over West Virginia. That seems a little ridiculous.
No. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I was contemplating that.
Yeah, I will say you see this a lot more in college baseball than college basketball. The number 1 overall seed usually, and it's not that they're purposely seeding the game. It's just there's not a lot to play for some of them. So you see a lot of teams that you see a lot of 2, 3, or 4 seeds winning instead of the 1 seed.
Mm-hmm.
So on this one, I'll go Arizona State over West Virginia. And then from there, I've got Kansas and TCU. I'll go Kansas. And then from there, I'll take Kansas in that one. I think Arizona State's luck will run out. But I do think that'll be enough of a run to put them on the map for a possible berth in the NCAA tournament. Not like hosting a regional or anything, but I feel like that'll put them on the map. Possibly shift them over the bubble if there's any questions. Here, let me check the standings before I make the assessment. But I think that would put them on the map. If they're not already being considered. Arizona State at 18-12 overall in the Big 12, 26-9. I mean, I know they're probably in there, but I feel like that would answer any questions or qualms anyone would have, possibly move them up a seed line as well. So that's all I've got for the Big 12. Honestly, out of the conferences, I've watched the Big 12 is probably the least I've watched. So
Yeah.
for me, that's from a limited. I've watched some SEC. I've actually watched a decent bit of Big 10 ball this season, on top of some. Well, obviously ACC is the most watched. So for me, but anything else you add for college baseball?
I do want to give. Hang on, there are a couple of other tournaments that are either wrapping up or I just wanted to highlight. Columbia has won the Ivy League tournament against Harvard, winning 14-6. Let's see what else. The Patriot tournament has closed with Holy Cross beating Army in 2 games. And the championship game in the Southland tournament has finally been set with New Orleans going up against Houston Christian. This game is a best out of 3, so whoever wins 2 games wins. And let's see, anything else? Those are the only tournaments with championships and outcomes already determined. And other tournaments that maybe I want to highlight just with some interesting factors. I feel like I mean, the American Athletic Tournament, ECU beat South Florida. They're going to be playing Charlotte. I'm just saying, look out for ECU. I think they're having a little bit of a down year right now, but especially being like a historically good baseball team, I just wouldn't count them out in anything, and especially going up against Charlotte, I could see them making a run. But other than that, that pretty much just sums up all the takeaways that I have for baseball right now.
Yeah, I'd agree. I feel like these teams like ECU and like these mid-major teams that we see a lot, they may not have like the season they want, but I feel like they always, regardless, kind of figure it out in the playoffs and find their way into the tournament. And I'm not saying ECU is going to was going to miss the tournament already, but I'm just saying like Campbell, ECU, regardless of how their season goes, I feel like they always find a way to turn around. So those are teams, some teams to look out for. Obviously, Coastal Carolina currently slated to host a regional. Although while they did beat NC State earlier in this season, I feel like this is a different team. So NC State is slated to be in their regional, but I wouldn't I wouldn't be afraid of that, but I also, would have a healthy respect for it. But you got to respect your mid majors. And I don't know why I'm blanking. Another team that I'd like to keep an eye out on and see if they win the Big West tournament is the University of California, Irvine. They're currently the number 12 team in the nation, if I'm not mistaken. They're around there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere abouts.
Yeah.
Currently not slated to host a regional, but I think they honestly deserve it. So that'll remain to be seen. That should do it for me when it comes to college baseball. There's one thing I'd like to note on the soccer, and it's not a big point. After over 100 years of playing in Goodison Park, Everton will be leaving Goodison Park for their new stadium. There's not an Everton fan, but I have a lot of like good memories of watching Chelsea play against Everton there. A lot of just fun games where I've seen just like as like just like I don't want to call it a casual observer, but as like a neutral party when watching Everton games. One that comes to mind is back when the U.S. star, currently retired Landon Donovan, used to play for them, and they had a comeback win over Manchester United where they were down 3-0 and came back and won 4-3 in super exciting fashion with Landon Donovan scoring several goals. And then fan favorite Marwan Fellaini scoring. For those of you who don't know, Marwan Fellaini is an interesting looking guy. I'm not going to describe what he looks like to you because I feel like it would come off kind of how I would describe him. I'll give Aiden my description off camera, and he'll understand why I can't say why I'm not going to describe how he looks. But he's just got a big afro. But it is a sad moment, watching Everton play at Goodison Park, something I've enjoyed. Not that I was an Everton fan, but, they're a team I'm impartial to in the Premier League. I don't hate them, so. But outside of that, I'll probably have a more in-depth review of Chelsea next week as the Premier League season will come to a close. Currently looking good because Chelsea's sitting in fourth and looking at a Champions League spot, so that'll be nice to be back in the Champions League after a few years. But with that being said, that's all I have. Do you have anything else, Aiden?
Nope.
Well, that should do it for us here at Tobacco Road and Abroad. Thank you for listening in, and we will be back next week with obviously probably our college baseball predictions as Selection Sunday will have happened, and probably some Premier League wrap up, maybe depending on when it is, preview the next MMA fight, but depends on when that is.
Yep.
So thank you guys for listening in. We'll see you next week.